Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
So next, I got another Japanese horror film called Pulse. So it's like these two groups of people start to discover evidence that spirits may be trying to invade the human world through the internet. So yeah, it was a super interesting story. I think it's a really good horror movie in the fact that like there's no jump scares. It's just all like atmosphere and it's like situational. There's no like crazy loud music going on. But it definitely has like a super spooky vibe, especially when they get to like walking around in these like abandoned buildings and stuff. And there's like this website that you get taken to, and it's like, do you want to see a dead person or a ghost or something? And it kind of scrolls through like all these different rooms that you can scroll through, and it's just people by themselves. And that kind of comes into play later throughout the movie, the ghosts and the people. But yeah, there's a point where it's like, I don't know if Tokyo's evacuated or if there's just no people left, and it's just like, seems post-apocalyptic when they're just walking through it. And man, I don't know, I really like this one. I think everybody should watch it if you like horror.
It sounds like it came out around I didn't look it up right before this, but it sounds like it came out around that time where you were getting a lot of like web-based horror, like fear.com.
It was like 2001
and stuff like
so
that. Yeah. Like the internet was kind of a new thing. But I can vouch for this director certainly because I've seen another movie of his called Cure that came out earlier. And the same kind of thing. Cure was very like atmospheric, not a bunch of jump scares or anything like that. Like it's like vibes. It's like spooky, atmospheric, haunting vibes. So that's another one I recommend for sure. My next one, I don't have a ton to say about. But I gotta put the word out there about this movie. It's relatively short. It's like an hour long, but I think it was the perfect length for it. But this was a movie called Milk and Cereal. Came out on YouTube for free to watch, and it's YouTubers / TikTokers that are putting it out. They usually do a lot of comedy, but I guess they do other shorts too. I think they've got one called like The Chair or something that I've heard the good things about. But this one's like, I think this is their longest one they've done as far as I can tell. And I already like these guys, but I didn't expect this level of care taken with something, and it's genuinely terrifying. It's like a horror slasher thing, but it's not cheap in its as far as like its dialogue and the execution in any way. And they really take being scary and being terrified and all that really seriously. And it does a lot of twists on you because these are like, it's supposed to be like prankster YouTubers and things go really crazy haywire. So it's kind of a found footage one, and I definitely don't always like found footage. But I thought this was really great, and if it counts as a full-length movie, it's one of my favorite horror movies of the year. So this is a recent one that just came out this year. But yeah, I won't say more about that, but I definitely recommend Milk and like ampersand cereal on YouTube. You can watch it for free right now.
So I got From Beyond.
It's out of control. You've got to turn it off. Something's coming. Humans are such easy prey.
Which a lot of people probably seen. It's got the same director as Reanimator, and it also has Jeffrey Combs, who is also in Reanimator. But what I mainly know him from, like watching this, I was like, what do I know this guy from? And he's like the guy from The Frighteners, who's got like slicked down hair and just does some of the most crazy facial expressions. But I thought this one was really fun, and like the practical effects and stuff, and H.P. Lovecraft adaptation, of course. And it's basically a group of scientists have developed this resonator machine, which allows whoever is within its range to see beyond the normal perceptible reality. But then it starts bringing out like these things that attack you. I guess it's like kind of like they're in the fourth dimension,
like
you're
eels.
in the third dimension. Yeah, it's like little eels and like some entity that killed one of the guys, and then he comes this weird ass fucking thing. But the practical effects on this are just like really good. The story is not that great, but I think
that's why I would recommend watching this, is for like the classic like 80s practical sci-fi effects. And there's not enough like H.P. Lovecraft, like cosmic horror stuff out there. So the pickings are pretty slim. So I've seen this too, and I didn't love it, but I'm glad I saw it. I think there's cool things. It's cool imagery here at least. And if you can just have fun with that level of like campy, schlocky stuff, then you could have fun with this. But it's not amazing.
Yeah.
I got a kind of a curveball one here, and I don't know, it's just a lot older of a movie than a lot of the ones we've been talking about. But I'm glad I watched this, and this was also on YouTube. I can't find it anywhere else. It's just free on YouTube. But like, there's no streaming service that offers this. But it's called Demons. I believe it came out in 1964. But this is a Japanese movie. It's about a ronin, or a kind of a samurai. And the very opening shot is like a bright orange sun setting, and then the rest of the movie is super high contrast black and white. And I wasn't expecting the level of darkness, like in both ways, but I mean, the subject matter is so dark here, and that I think that image of like the setting sun being the last color you see, and this like the first and last color you see, is fitting, because this takes it to levels that I don't think you would have been allowed to do it all in America in 1964, and really harrowing stuff to watch at points. Really haunting imagery. The stark black and white kind of adds something to it, and when people bleed, it's like the blood's just pitch black. It's really haunting stuff. Really stuck with me. There's things about this that will stay with me forever. I saw like somebody on Letterboxd said like, I feel like I'm not the same person after having watched this movie, and I get what they're talking about. I mean, some of it, it's dated. Obviously, it's 1964, so some of it there's a little bit of overacting, and when people die, it is like over the top, like hilariously over death, like, and it's like slow motion. So every time somebody dies, it's in slow motion. So they're like and grabbing onto table. And flipping furniture over with them and everything. So it's a little funny, but everything's done so well. People spraying blood, and the practical effects are great. Severed arms and slashed faces and stuff that, it's like impressive to see that done in the 60s. So highly recommend Demons.
I want to watch that.
So you got one last one, right?
Yeah, and this is one I think is like a cult classic, so I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but Cube.
Identified by prime numbers.
Figure it out.
I can't!
I'm not dying in a rat maze!
No more talking. No more guessing. You gotta save yourselves from yourselves.
It's a group of people all like wake up in a cube, and there's just like traps everywhere. It's like they're inside of the Hellraiser cube, whatever that's called. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
I think this had some good practical effects. I think the acting in this was not very good.
You're not getting out of here.
Yes, we are! There is no way out of here!
We need to get around the trap.
But I kept thinking, so like towards the end of the movie, a lot of the traps are like sound or vibration based. And towards the end of the movie, they are like halfway through, they find a guy that they're trying to help, and he's like severely autistic. And I really kept waiting for the end of the movie. I was like, this guy's going to be the one controlling all these cubes. And I really wish he was, but I thought he was going to like pull a doofy at the end of a scary movie and just start walking normal and like light up a cigarette. But yeah, no, there's some cool practical effects, like skin melting stuff, and but it's just like a real simple, kind of simple story, and like not great
I think
acting.
some of the ideas are better than the execution. So
Right,
I've seen this movie a couple times, and I liked it a lot better the first time. It hasn't really aged well for me.
Yeah.
There's like some things here that I see problems with, but I do think the premise is cool. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Saw, the first Saw movie, where it's like you wake up in the situation and
Right.
have to get. But it's kind of like an escape room kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where you've got to solve these things to survive. I think there's things to like. I think most people do tend to like this, so it might be worth checking out. You know, your mileage may vary on this.
Yeah, there's a French movie called Meander that I watched before I watched this, and it's similar type of thing, except for turns out aliens type of thing in Meander, at least. I think they did it better in that movie. I
guess I got one more, and then I might do, you know, if people are interested, I might do another follow-up video, because I watched a ton of stuff this month, and I got other things I could mention, but I think my last one is going to be Triangle.
I recognize this corridor.
Everything you see, you have seen before.
Which this is one I watched before October, but I feel like nobody talks about this movie, and I gotta shout it out. Triangle is a really cool psychological horror movie. It's written and directed by Christopher Smith and Melissa George. And Melissa George is our lead character. She does a great job as Jess, and it's just a cool premise that I don't really want to tell you a whole lot about. I think you should kind of not know it going into it, but I'll just say that it reminds me, and it's meant to remind you of the myth of Sisyphus, if you remember that like old story. But the way their take on it is just so creative. It all takes place on this like cruise ship, and it's all shot on like sets, so it doesn't feel all blue screeny and stuff like that all the time. Just took me by surprise. I went into it not knowing a whole lot about it, and I highly recommend you do as similar to that as you can. But the main character, Melissa George, just does a really good job of elevating this, and it's already a really interesting story anyway, but it just keeps unfolding, and you keep being surprised and figuring out what's going on. So not a simple story, but I think you can like piece it all together by the end, and it makes you. It's certainly one I try to recommend to people as much as I can. So anyway, I guess that is the end of this one. I might have a companion video to this coming up in the future, but that's some horror movies we watched in October, some we recommend and don't recommend. Hope you guys subscribe if you haven't already, like this video, share this with somebody that's looking for horror movies to watch this October. Comment below and give us some suggestions too. We're always, every month is a little bit like October for me, kind of both of us probably. We watch movies all year long, and they're often horror movies too, so we'll always take suggestions. We appreciate you watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Thanks.